I appreciate you, Madam Chair, and I see the public defender have joined us, and
Yeah,
my
it's
dear
always an
friend.
honor. I feel like the presence of the Lord is here.
Yeah.
Please don't. It's great seeing all of y'all. Roosevelt, Ms. Walters, I hope you're doing well for the new year. Happy New Year.
I don't get into the small stuff. The fact that I'm doing is good.
And on that note, Madam Secretary is getting our attention. We have gone live. So
okay.
let me interrupt for just a second. Madam Secretary, do we have a quorum present?
We are ready, Madam President. Madam Chair.
All right then. Let me call this meeting to order. I always enjoy speaking to Mr. Walters. He is a wealth of knowledge. And Mr. Walters, I'm going to try to make good my pledge from last year to get by and sit down and chat with you and do some oral recordings of history things for the NAACP and for excuse me, that's my phone. Believe it or not, that's Judge Gillespie calling me, interrupting my meeting. I told him I was in a meeting. All right. At this time, I'm going to allow you all to do introductions. I'll begin with myself. I'm Alona Holmes. I'm a retired circuit judge from the 17th Judicial Circuit, and I have the honor of chairing this cab.
Judge Carlos Rebolo, Circuit Court Judge. I'm in the Juvenile Delinquency Division.
Ella Phillips, DJJ Advisory.
Florida Waits, Public Defender's Office, Public Defender.
Victor London, Fort Lauderdale Police Department.
Is that still Assistant Chief?
I just answered the music of the chair.
Okay. I'm sorry, Mr. Walters, is your turn. I'm sorry. I wanted to make sure we got Mr. Assistant Chief London's title on the record.
That's correct, ma'am.
Okay. All right, Mr. Walters, your turn.
Roosevelt Walters, and I dance at the music of the chair.
Madam Secretary.
Marsha Ellison, NAACP and Chair Secretary.
All right. And we also, the liaison from the Department of Juvenile Justice, Mr. Tevis Bush is present with us also. Happy New Year to everybody. And that, I can't stress that enough. Here we are already on the 10th day of a new year. So Happy New Year. I want to welcome you all again to our CAB meeting. At this time, I'm going to ask if there is a motion to approve the agenda that has been distributed to the body.
Madam Chair, move approval of today's agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or discussion? No hands up, no voices raised. All in favor of the approval of the agenda, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, the agenda stands as approved. I'll also entertain now a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting in December.
Madam Chair, move approval of the December 2023 CAB minutes via video.
And they have been posted just for people who are listening in. Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I'll second that motion.
Okay. It's been moved by the secretary and seconded by the vice chair. Any discussion, questions? All right, seeing no hands up, all in favor of the approval of the video minutes that have been posted, signify by raising your hand or saying aye.
Aye.
Right, any opposition? Hearing none, the minutes stand as recorded. They have been approved. I'm going to remind you that I violated the first rule, and that was to turn your cell phones off. It is now off on my end. Put them on vibrate or turn them off. Please raise your hands to be recognized. I have given Mr. Walters, because he is appearing by phone, I've given him the option of just saying Madam Chair, as he always does, so that I can make sure that I get his input in our discussions. So if you just get my attention, I don't see every hand up, but the secretary is pretty good about telling me somebody's hand is up. Also, I'm going to ask that you speak for a maximum of 3 minutes, unless you're presenting. That's the important thing, so I can get everybody's voice to be heard. Please respect the opinions and viewpoints of all. We may not agree, but we can be civil, as we have always been. This is one of the rare boards that I enjoy being on. There's no infighting. So thank you all. And please address all board members respectfully. Is Mr. Obell on yet? It's gonna be hard for me to.
He is not. He said he's at the doctor's office. He's going to try and get on from the doctor's office, though.
But if he can't make it, I'll be fine. I don't want to get into the Dallas Cowboys, even though the Dolphins did beat them. All right. At this time, my chair's report is going to be very brief because of the holiday. I'm still going to work with the secretary of this board and along with the vice chair, Mr. Weeks, to get an audience with school board superintendent, as well as certain chiefs of police, that we need to talk to them about what our data has shown us. So as soon as we can set those up, my report will be a lot longer. Any questions of me at this time regarding the chair's report? No hands. There's nothing to approve about my report. There was no voting to be done. At this time, Mr. Weeks, I'm going to turn it over to you and to, is Mr. James on the other side? So Madam Secretary, if you bring him over.
And then he's out today.
Oh, he's out today? Okay. Well, we got Ms. Gaynor also.
She is getting on. Let me see if I see her already. I don't see her. There is a Leslie Rodriguez with her hand. Does anybody know who that is?
She works with Miss Gaynor. Yes.
Okay.
Is she covering for Ms. Gaynor, or she's just here to assist?
Guess we'll find out.
Judge, if you mind, I'll defer to the reporting to Ms. Gaynor. She's the point and she has the most information to provide.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Rodriguez, are you reporting for Ms. Gaynor? Hello.
Hi, yes, good afternoon. Hi, yes, good afternoon. My name is Leslie Rodriguez. I am here for Tamika Gaynor to provide the December 2023 civil citation report.
Okay. Did she give you anything regarding the data collection?
What I have now to report on is
yeah.
Madam Chair, if you would allow us to defer the reporting of the data reporting workshop to the next meeting so that we can have both Ms. Gaynor and John James to lead that discussion, because they are the ones that are reviewing the actual probable cause affidavits and sorting through that. They're doing that in conjunction with Ms. Michelle from the State Attorney's Office.
Ms. Rodriguez, there's a lot of feedback behind you. So there was a motion for Mr. Weeks to, Ms. Rodriguez, if you can mute, thank you. There's a motion for Mr. Weeks to table the second agenda item, the report from the data work group, until the next meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and second. Any questions or objections? We do need Mr. Gaynor here because of the questions that were raised by each item that we passed individually last month. So all in favor of tabling that report for our next meeting, please raise your hand or signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? All right, the ayes have it. And so that is tabled. And if you need more time than 30 minutes, Mr. Weeks, if you'll give me a heads up as I submit the agenda to Madam Secretary, I'll certainly make sure I give you enough time. All right. Stand by, Ms. Rodriguez, because you're number 4 on our, the civil citation is number 4 on the agenda. So stand by. All right, the school disciplinary committee report. I think that's Madam Secretary, also who's president of the NAACP.
Madam Chair, we have a meeting coming up, I believe, on tomorrow. So my report remains the same with the exception of the update on the police department that the superintendent and some others are wishing. The debate is should the Broward County School District have its own police department in the same as both our of both the West Palm Beach or the Palm Beach County Public School District and the Miami-Dade. There were lots of different opinions. I've seen at least one letter from one mayor indicating he certainly did not support. It was not, once again, was not taken out to the public to get their input. And so one of the things that happened was that it's rushed. And the idea did not gain public support. The pros and the cons. I know there were some different law enforcement agencies. There were one, I think I heard something from one of the BSO folk that they wanted to be the new entity. There were others who certainly did not want that. It was a matter of issue funding. I know that I was told at one of our meetings that Hollywood PD had asked for a very large number in excess of 100 Gs for each one of those folk. So, you know, if you're held hostage and you sign that, then everybody else is going to want the same money. And so it's not a simple issue. I do have a concern, and as has been with all along, if you have one entity in charge, say if it was the sheriff's department and a sheriff who gets in who is not interested in anything but arrest and housing and the funding that goes with it, then you have a problem. And so you have to, I think the idea has certainly to be thought out better. More information to the public, and it was unanimous on yesterday, but it deserves more than what it seems to have been given. And I believe that Board Member Holdis asked to perhaps bring it back in April. I think it should, but it should have to be more detail and information given prior to, so we can see what the thinking of and how this police department. I've heard some good things and some bad things from both Miami-Dade and from Palm Beach County, but I think it has to be more thought out more, and it has to be, it's a catch-22, because if you do that, you have issues. But right now you have, cities that, like a Coconut Creek, like a Springs, like, some of these other people who have different ideas on what law enforcement and SROs, the role of SROs is. But we'll get an update on tomorrow's meeting and see where we are. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any questions of, Secretary?
Weeks.
Okay, Mr. Weeks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I echo our representative from the NAACP. We're seeing a pattern with our school system when it comes to novel ideas. And this whole issue of having law enforcement either in-house or contracting out-house has a lot of wrinkles. There's a lot of different ways to do it. You could do an entire in-house police department where you hire certified law enforcement officers and you run your whole department. You could contract out to one large police department, i.e. BSO, Fort Lauderdale, to then man or staff all the schools. Or you can continue with the similar model where they are parsing it from each and every city and entering into multiple contracts and getting various different levels of service. That all needs to be parsed out. And there are consultants that do this type of stuff that write reports on this type of stuff, that do this type of analysis, and they can offer some feedback to the school board and to the public on the pros and cons of each one of these models. Because without having a deep dive into it, you cannot really make a good decision. I'm troubled that it wasn't even brought back for further consideration. It seems like it just is dead on arrival. And that is of concern to me because it seemed like there was a lot of consideration given to cities and their position with respect to whether the Broward County school system should have their own law enforcement agencies. And we have to recognize that it's those same cities that were being contracted with the Broward County school system and received very, very lucrative contracts for that service. So having the tail wag the dog and making your decisions is not always the best approach to things. And I respect the cities, they have their issues and they have their concerns, but if the school board is going to make this decision, that's going to impact all of our children and it's going to impact arrest rates and arrest frequencies in our criminal justice system. I think they should, reach out some of the stakeholders, get a proper vetting of this, and get a very deep dive report exploring all of the options. And more importantly, looking at the agencies that are offering their services. Because, if BSO is offering services and Fort Lauderdale is also considering they want to, offer the service, or Coconut Creek is considering they want to offer the service. Each one of those agencies have different strengths and weaknesses when it comes to school resource officers. This is a very, very important decision because it's going to affect how safety is monitored in our school systems. And for them to just do a quick overview of it, PowerPoint presentation, vote against it, and then, when it's moved to be reconsidered in a future date, it doesn't get much traction. I don't think it got a second. I don't think it got, a follow-up. It's done and over. And this comes from our school board that said that student safety was a priority since Parkland. So you're not giving it, I saw the commentary on the news when everybody said there's so many other priorities in Broward County: education, student resources, teachers, and those are also equally important. But we also remember Broward County prioritized school safety. So give this the same level of due diligence that you're going to be giving all those other issues, and also include the public so we can give feedback, and not only go to the folks that you've already contracted with and say, I'm contracting for service. And I tell the people I'm contracting for, hey, I'm considering going in another direction. What do you think they're going to say to me? Oh, don't go there. Don't do that, because they want me to stay with them. So you have to be objective about it. And I think the best way to be objective is to get an outside agency, write a report, make that report available to the public, have all the law enforcement officers offer feedback, all community members offer feedback, and then let the board decide whether it's a valid proposal or not. It's going to impact the state attorney's office. It's going to impact this board. It's going to impact law enforcement agencies. It's going to impact Broward. And it was a quick once over, and I was incredibly disappointed by that. Incredibly disappointed. So, that's my comments on it. And I just wanted to put that and share that moving forward.
Also, there was an issue, and I have no insider information. It's what I have read and have seen on from news reports, but about communications, the radio communications, that if they went to a school policing force, they would not be on the same frequency as law enforcement. So if something happened and they needed backup and more officers there, somebody would have to call 911 and that's not expedient. I think after the Stoneman Douglas massacre, everybody was able to get on the same frequency. I think Assistant Chief London, can you speak to that? I mean, doesn't it make sense that everybody at least have the same radio frequency if there's an emergency or something like that?
That is a basic requirement for a good response to any emergency, is the communications.
So if they are a standalone police force, and they're not on the same frequency as Fort Lauderdale or BSO. Say, for instance, something happens in Deerfield. Deerfield's BSO, Hollywood, and they need response from BSO or something, and all they've got is the school police officers and not Hollywood Police Department. What kind of scenario does that present?
Yeah, in order to respond to an emergency, especially a large scale one that's going to involve multiple agencies, there is a need for communication, common communication. So that would be a requirement.
Could that be provided to a standalone police department? So as the school board, would that be provided to them?
I can't speak to that, but I would imagine that if they're going, we have in law enforcement, you have your main channels that you dispatch off of, and then you have common channels that you can navigate to on the radio. So I wouldn't know whether or not they would have access to those mutual aid channels, but that would be a requirement in order to have an effective response to an emergency.
Any other comments or responses to the school disciplinary committee report?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Walters.
One of my concerns is if we're going to do this, I would hate to see this contract get out to one of those cities who don't support promise, civil citations, these type of things. If you don't support that, for instance, Coral Springs, why should you be interested in being the force that control all the schools when you don't even want to participate where you are?
That requires rational thought and thinking. So, Mr. Walters, that's a good question, and it's not just rhetorical. That is something, they're not doing what 985.12 is saying they should do. What makes us think that they're going to do anything else related to Florida statute? So, excellent point. Excellent point. Anybody else? All right. Seeing no hands. Thank you, Madam Secretary, for that report. All right, Ms. Rodriguez, you're up now for the report on civil citations and missed opportunities. I will, after you give me numbers, I will ask for demographics, as I always do. And you reported before, so I'm going to yield for you to give that report to the board.
You're all set, Ms. Rodriguez.
Okay. For the month of December, there was a total of 43 youth who were issued civil citations. There were 22 females and 21 males who were issued citations. 28 of them were identified as Black, 8 were identified as white, 6 Latino, 1 was identified as other. There were 26 youth who were discharged from the program. 2 of the youth, it was their second civil citation. 1 of them, it was their third civil citation. We received 22 citations for the offense of battery, 1 for loitering and prowling, 7 for petty theft, 3 for possession of alcohol, 2 for possession of marijuana, 2 for possession of drug paraphernalia, 2 for resisting officer without violence, and 2 for trespassing. For the law enforcement agencies, there were 12 citations issued by the Broward Sheriff's Office, 2 by Coral Springs, 4 from Davie, 3 Fort Lauderdale, 3 from Hollywood, 3 from Lauderhill, 1 for Margate, 10 from Pembroke Pines, 4 for Plantation, and 1 for Sunrise. That was for the December 2023 Juvenile Civil Citation Report. And now, if you don't have any questions, I can move on to the Missed Opportunity Report, which I received today from the Department of Juvenile Justice.
We'll stand by. That's my line. Are there any questions as to
Oh,
the
I do.
statistics that Ms. Rodriguez has provided to this board? She went rather fast. I didn't hear Coconut Creek issued any citations in December. Is that correct? I got 12 BSO, 2 Coral Springs, 4 from Davie, 3 from Fort Lauderdale, 3 from Hollywood, 3 from Lauderhill, 1 from Margate, and 10 from Pembroke Pines, and 4 from Plantation. Is that correct?
yes, and one from Sunrise.
1 from Sunrise.
I have a quick question, Madam Chair.
You may proceed.
So Pembroke Park, which is what we talked about last month. I don't know if my question would be, and I know that would probably be for Ms. Marcella, and she's not here. But do you know if any contact has been made with Pembroke Park? I know that they're really new. But I don't know if you all have meetings set up. I know that you've been out and about, Ms. Marcella, regarding Pembroke Park.
Nothing has been scheduled with Pembroke Park, but you bring up a good point. I guess we do need to actually address that since they are their own agency now. That'll be a New Year's resolution.
Yeah, I know
I think their chief is Donovan Dabney.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But it's her first time as chief, and I know she's got her hands full, but she probably is not familiar with the program as well.
I will do that.
Thank you.
And Ms. Rodriguez, you told me how many citations have been issued. We want to know about missed opportunities. Who could have issued a citation and did fail to do so? What municipality or agency?
Yes.
Do you have that?
Yes, Judge. So 3 were from the Broward Sheriff's Office, 2 from Hollywood, 1 from Margate, 1 from Pembroke Pines, and 2 from Plantation.
Can you tell me what the charges were that they missed? And Ms. Machala may be able to help you. Ms. Machala may be able to help you with that too. BSO missed 3, and Dave Holmes is not here. I gave him an excused absence. There's been a police shooting, and he had to respond to the scene, so he's excused. But he's gonna blow a whistle or a gasket, as my daddy would say. That BSO missed 3. Can you tell me what they were for? Do you have that information?
It's on that report.
Yes.
I don't know. Ms. Rodriguez has that before her, right?
Yes. Yes, Your Honor. 1 was for trespassing, 1 was for vandalism, and the last one was for battery.
All right. The vandalism, criminal mischief, that transfers to Ms. Machala. Criminal mischief.
Yes.
Is there an explanation as to why they? I'm not going to argue the battery because that has more detail. Even though there were arrests made for battery, but for the trespass, which is second-degree misdemeanor, and criminal mischief, depending on the amount, it's normally a second-degree misdemeanor. Do you have any idea why they were not issued citations?
So normally I would try to look these up before our meeting. I don't want to say it. So I only got this report today. I did not have an opportunity to research those missed opportunities. Usually Chief Bush gets them to me, that gets to us the day before. We're all coming back, so I'm not trying to call out Chief Bush. He's one of my favorite people. But I didn't have time today to get through those. I'm sorry. But I know if Colonel Holmes was here, he probably would have looked them up too. But I can definitely circle back on that at the next meeting.
Because I do plan to bring it up.
I know. I'm sure you will.
I will not forget. All right.
Of course.
The 2 missed opportunities from Hollywood, what were they for? You're on mute, Miss Rodriguez. Can you unmute? Okay. For Hollywood, what were the missed opportunities?
They were both for battery.
Okay. All right. Ms. Michelle, for next month, if you could circle back and tell me what those batteries were. And then one for Margate, what was that?
Battery.
December was a tough month for that's Christmas, the spirit of giving, right? Gracious. All right, and one from Pembroke Pines,
It was for battery as well, Your Honor.
and two from Plantation.
They were for trespassing.
Okay. Ms. Michelle, I'm going to put an asterisk by that. I'd like to know, if they were told to leave the mall and they could have got citation. And normally they leave Coral Springs Mall and head down to the Broward Mall. That's just, just the one mall to the next. So, but I'd like to know why those were missed. So we have a total of 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 missed opportunities.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me interject. No, I'll wait for Ms. Brown. I want to ask her some questions. Are there any questions of Ms. Rodriguez or Ms. Mashala regarding the missed opportunities and the charges?
No, I know that, Madam Chair, I know that that school was out, but I'd love to know if any of them were school-based, like earlier before school let out as well.
Yeah.
For next month, I mean.
Okay. All right then. So between Ms. Mashala and Ms. Gaynor, we'll get that information. So Ms. Mashala, could you communicate with Ms. Gaynor that that's what we're going to be asking for?
Yes, and I'm sure Ms.
And
Rodriguez.
Ms. Rodriguez, I was getting ready. I'm looking right at her, but I want to make sure I got two people relaying that message. So if you ask Ms. Gaynor for those 9 missed opportunities, if she'll be ready to report to the board in addition to her report for next month anyway.
I will tell her for the other report. However, Your Honor, on this report that I have in front of me, according to the report, there are 5 community-based missed opportunities and the other 4 were school-based.
Okay, tell me about the school base. Were they those batteries also?
The school-based, yes, they were batteries.
All right, so we're waiting for Ms. Gaynor and Ms. Mashala to tell us more about that. I know Mr. Walters is always concerned about us including batteries in there because even our civil citation agreement sort of excludes the crime of battery, but there's a star beside it. There are certain instances where a civil citation can be issued based upon the discretion of the state attorney's office and the pleading of the public defender's office for a civil citation as opposed to an arrest. Right. Any questions of Ms. Rodriguez that I've not covered? Anybody? Mr. Weeks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Rodriguez, anecdotally, I think this is a higher tick than we have previously been reported throughout the year. 9 is awfully high. We usually have around maybe 1, 2, 3, and in some unusual instances 4. Is there anything that you are seeing that could suggest why the uptick was for this report?
So, or for the civil citation report.
Excuse me, I'm specifically referencing
regarding the missed opportunities.
The high number of missed opportunities.
So yes, for the missed opportunities for this month, it just looks like there was an uptick regarding there's more battery offenses than there usually is, as far as missed opportunities concerned. Because if they're related to domestic violence, they won't be eligible, for a civil citation. However, the majority of these battery cases are school-based.
Madam Chair, I'm not sure what this really means, but I know that we all in the system concerned around the holidays because there's a higher level of stress, depression, mental illnesses, exacerbate during the holiday season. And I think that we need to just watch January and February and March and to see if this trend continues or if it drops back down. And moving forward, now that we recognize this particular trend, if we get close to September or October of next year, maybe the call should be to law enforcement and to our school systems to just be more mindful of the holiday stressors that are associated with it. Because I do not remember this many missed opportunities in a report, but I could be in error, but I don't remember this high volume.
Last year, Ms. Gaynor gave us some insight into the high numbers, because I remember asking her, I think it was April or May, we had a high number of missed opportunities there also. And, and most of them were batteries. And I remember you had the discussion with her, can we look into that? And then Ms. Mashala says her office always looks into that to see if they can issue or have the officer come back and issue a civil citation. Ms. Mashala, do you have any information as to the high number, or should we just watch the trend?
I think we need to watch the trend. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Ms. Phillips?
It could be in hindsight for me right now, but I'd be curious to look at the date because they keep saying it's school-based, but when did the kids get out of school? So it would have had to happen early December. I'm just curious to know. We might want to look at that for all those school-based ones.
Right. Well, Ms. Gaynor's going to have her work cut out for her, Ms. Mashala, next month, because I'm certainly going to circle back on this. Let me ask you something. Is there any objection from any board member for me to shoot off, and I'll have you all CC'd. I'll make sure the secretary of this board sends out a copy of the email, just asking Ms. Gaynor to look into that and keep a table or something that she can show us a graph of the trend, because we were downward in October and November. So 9 missed opportunities, that's pretty high, considering the work of this board. So if I were to put our concerns in an email so that I'll know that I'll get these answers next month, or either some speculation. I'll take speculation as to why.
I'd move if we need a motion to that to just
Consent.
it and graph it over the year, because you're right, Judge. April we had a little tick, and now we're having a tick now. But if we're not watching it over a course of time, we're not going to see when these ticks are occurring. And like Ms. Phillips pointed out, if they are occurring like 2 days before the end of school, then we know it may be a school issue. If it's occurring, during testing when there's half days, it may be a school issue. And then we can then reach out to our partners to try to emphasize that during those times, they just need to be a little bit more mindful of the children.
You know what, Mr. Weeks, that is the point that I saw last year and the year before that. Just before spring break, just before the summer break, just before any extended holiday, there's an uptick in missed opportunities. And I don't know, is it because they're going to miss one another or something?
Madam Chair, I'm hesitant to remind folks what it was like when we were in school.
Well, the last day of school, I didn't wear earrings. I understood what my assignment was.
Don't forget, we all play like we don't remember, but I think everyone remembers.
I grew up
what
in
the
North
last
Philly.
week of school
I
was
fully
like.
understood my assignment on the last day of school.
Judge Holmes, you don't have to explain that to Judge Ravolo because he might not get that Tuesday with the no earrings. Explain.
The last day of school was when everybody had to, get their frustration out. They picked somebody they wanted to beat up. So we didn't dress up on the last day of school. We wore stuff that could be torn up, so our parents wouldn't say, what happened to your clothes and stuff like that. And don't wear earrings because they'll pull them out. But we fought our way out of the classroom on the last day of school. The bullies came out and people thought they were going to, jack you up. And so I had to learn to fight. And like I said, I fought my way home a lot of times. But the last day of school is like that.
Madam Chair, even though we don't endorse that, we have to recognize that that's a real dynamic.
I'm from the city of brotherly love where pugilism reigns supreme. That's where the boxers came from. So we know I got a left. I'm sorry, I digress. I was having a flashback. Yeah, so
I remember, remember National Skip Day and all those things that occurred when we were in school that we forget still occur, and all that stuff is still happening. And it's not like it was a rite of, it was passage for a number of children all throughout the nation. I'm not saying it, I'm not condoning it. I'm just saying it's just realities that exist within a school environment.
Yeah, it's the culture
and Madam
of the
Chair,
school. Yes.
As you outline your data requests from Ms. Gaynor, if you would certainly include the school-based arrests that's the same trend. Traditionally, arrests themselves increase during when there's spring break or summer, that sort of thing. But the missed opportunities prior to is a different twist. And for the record, I know that the district had $9 million in bond money that went unused last year, and we're encouraging to use that money as it should be this year, so that services could be rendered to children and we can certainly track and see what needs are as we move forward.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez, for stepping in. She always gets a little nervous when I start doing my interrogation, but you get used to it. Thank you for at least you brave enough to volunteer to come in up here before Ms. Gaynor. So thank you, appreciate you, and Happy New Year to you. Thank you. All right. Any other questions of Ms. Rodriguez or anything? And so I asked if the board didn't have any objection. Nobody raised any objection. I'm going to put this in, but you all will get a copy of the email that I sent out. So, but I will point out Ms. Gaynor is not a board member, so sunshine does not affect my communications with her. But I believe in transparency. You all need to know what I'm doing and saying on behalf of this board. So thank you. All right. So I'll get that out either later this evening or tomorrow. Let's go to the Alternative Prevention Work Group report. Did Mr. Obel, was he able to join us?
No, Judge.
Okay, Colonel Holmes is not here. So can we table that report until we get them? This is the project that they're working on in Deerfield to come up with activities and a program for children who are not in DJJ custody or been sentenced by a court to programs for some act of delinquency. And their parents just want them to stay out of the system. And we don't want them to be put in the system because they're, utilizing a DJJ program. So those law enforcement entities that have big budgets, like Fort Lauderdale and BSO, we're going to look to them to help us to keep our children out of the computer system. I call it the pipeline. So thank you. All right. I want to publicly thank, and you should have received the email after last month's meeting. Ms. Brown was kind enough to give us a table, a chart of the delinquency in domestic violence data. And she talked about a program that they were using basically to help out and provide services. And I thought that was wonderful. So Ms. Brown, is there a report for December 20 23 out yet?
No. Good afternoon, Madam Chair
afternoon. Good afternoon.
and board members. There is not a report out. It will be ready tomorrow, but I can
Okay.
tell you that in the month of December, we had 5 domestic violence cases that came through detention, and 4 females and 1 male.
How many
there-
black?
All
black?
No, ma'am. No, Madam Chair.
No, I'll accept that too. I've been called words. Okay.
I'm working on that. I'm so used to saying ma'am and sir, and
That's okay.
I'm having to work on that. That's an area I'm working on.
I'm good.
Let's see here. Let's look at the data. We had 3 blacks and 2 whites. So we had, to be more specific, we had 3 black females, 1 white female, and 1 black male. 1 white male.
Now, were these all first offenses?
Let me look at that.
I don't want to take away from your report, but I was just excited to get this written report from you. So, can we keep this up every month for this CAB board?
Yes, Madam Chair. I'm in the process of, we have a respite meeting scheduled tomorrow. Okay. So I'm in the process of doing a case-by-case analysis of all the cases that came through detention. Now, when I mentioned the domestic violence cases that have come through, there are some DV cases that where youth are arrested and they're released with a notice to appear. We are not capturing that data. We're only capturing the youth who are appearing before a judge for a detention hearing. So I can give you, after I do an analysis of what has been given to me, I can let you know if they were first-time offenders. I'd like to take a second look at whatever is given to me.
Okay.
So next month, I can certainly let you know that, whether or not all of these youth were first-time offenders.
All right. So I would certainly love to hear at our next meeting what happened in the respite meeting, because we talked about that about almost 2 years ago, that there was no place when Chief Evans was with us. We talked about respite. Look, I understand some parents need a break from their children, and that's necessary so that they don't hurt their children. But when they got no place to go, that's when the trouble sparks. So, did you all receive a copy of it's titled 17 Judicial Circuit Delinquency Domestic Violence Data, November 2023. Everybody should have received that. So Ms. Brown, thank you for this report. Normally I get Mr. James, but he's out ill. So he just called in sick so he wouldn't have to deal with me. Is that what it is? Okay. Tell him I said Happy New Year. But Mr. James normally breaks this down, he and Ms. Machallo, for us as to what can be done. So Ms. Machallo, anything you want to add for our edification for these DV cases? We seem to be stuck on 8 to 5 to 8. That seems to be our typical range every month. So something is happening, but we want to make sure we keep track of these children because they don't get civil citations, and we weren't tracking to find out what happened to them. If you don't get a citation, you get arrested, but what happens to you after you go before Judge Robolo or Judge Ross or Judge Williams? What happens after that? So I'd like to kind of like keep track of that. Don't let them fall through the cracks because they're still juveniles. But I do have to ask, have any juveniles been direct filed based upon things they have done to their parents? I was asked over the holiday, Ms. Machallo, about, I don't remember what circuit they were talking about, but they had some children that were direct filed for beating up their parents. Felony batteries.
Not in Not in this circuit. I think I see Mr. Weeks shaking his head, so I think he agrees with me. We do not handle our domestics that way. Obviously, if it was a very egregious and more serious offense like they had in Miami, that might be a different story. But knock on wood, we haven't had anything like that with any of our youth. We handle them very delicately. I think I've said before, these cases are taken, we take our time with these cases. Many of them are diverted if it's a first time. Even when they repeat the offense, we're still trying to work with the families. We divert again. The nice thing about the programming that Ms. Brown spearheaded for our circuit is that those youth, even if they're not ultimately prosecuted in any way or even going to a diversion program through our office, they're getting services through the programming that we now have, or this respite service that we've now have put together for these families. And like she said the last time we met, it is about the entire dynamic of the family. And if we're not working with the entire family, we're going to have repeated generational behavior. So to the extent that we constantly are trying to work with trying to keep them out of the system, that is our ultimate goal. If they get filed, it's only because it's a very serious offense, or we need to have them go before a judge so that the youth can start really availing themselves of services they may not be doing through diversion and that sort of thing. But we understand that it's very delicate, Madam Chair, and that unfortunately the criminal justice system is the place where we're handling them at this point, just like we do in our domestic violence unit. So
Unfortunately, the criminal justice system has become the sort of like place where everybody goes when they need help, whether it's mental health, uh, any type of services. Folks, they don't have the funds to no insurance, so they call the police, and the police just make the arrest. Okay, so Miss Brown, what's the name of the program that you talked about? You said it was funded for the year, and I was asking if there was going to be other funding where the families got help and treatment. You were excited about it, so I want to.
Yeah,
do you remember the name of that?
I do. It's Broward Behavioral Health Coalition funded the Smith Community Mental Health Center to complete these integrated family safety plans. It began July of 2023, and between July and December, there were 26 integrated family safety plans court ordered. However, 21 youth completed the plan, and as of December of last year, December 31st, we looked at the data. No youth had been who actually completed those plans. Of the 21 youth, none had been rearrested for domestic violence.
Madam
Knock
Chair,
on wood, no recidivism. I like that.
if I may, Madam Chair,
Yes.
I think this is one of the most important programs and ways to approach this issue that we've probably been doing in juvenile. We oftentimes say domestic violence, you put in a very sanitary state, because the term domestic violence, you assume that it's, a fight physical between two people. But when it's parental and child domestic violence, there's a lot of dynamics that go on with that. And I appreciate the state attorney's office for being mindful of those parental dynamics, and the courts for being mindful of that, because, and I'm trying to find a delicate way to put this, but there are challenges. Raising kids is challenged. Children don't come with an instruction manual, and not all parents have the sophistication, the wherewithal, the support in order to navigate through those challenges. And although the child acts out and may be physical and it causes the police to be called, the best way to address domestic violence issues is to try to get in the home and work with all the people in the home. Because oftentimes just not that one child, it's the siblings, it's the mother, it's the father, the grandparents, the extended family. There's dynamics that are going on that are impacting that behavior. And we have to, as a system, recognize that. We just can't say, you did it and we're going to punish you. You have to look at why this is occurring. And if we want to get ahead of it and reduce it and prevent it, that's the way to do it. Get some competent people in the home to not only work with the child to recognize that their behavior is inappropriate, but give the parent some tools so they can be able to better parent and communicate with their child so it doesn't have to end in violence. And I just wanted to emphasize that because I got kids. You know, I love them, but you know, it's challenging. And even with all the skills and the sophistication, raising children is challenging. And we have to, as a system, we have to recognize and acknowledge that.
Madam Chair,
Yes. Yes, Madam Secretary.
let the record reflect that Mr. Mike Obell has joined the call.
Do I have to? I mean, okay. How you? Happy New Year. How you doing, Miss Obell? Okay. Well, we'll keep going. Miss Brown, if you could just say, you know, kudos to the Smith Community Health from this board. You know, we were quite impressed. When you have, I understand the sample size is small. You had 26 referrals and 21 completed, and there's been no recidivism. That's a successful program. So maybe if Broward Behavioral Health can continue to fund that would be certainly a blessing. Any questions of Ms. Brown before we move on? All right, Mr. Obell, you hear me? Yes, Mr. Walters.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yes, it's Mr. Obell here. Go ahead and get it out early.
How you doing, Mr. Obell? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I heard you earlier about the Dolphins beating the Cowboys. It's okay. Y'all barely won.
Did I do that?
So I couldn't say nothing.
Look, y'all barely lost. You know, okay, we're going to do that, but a loss is a loss. But Mr. Obell, I'm glad you joined us because Colonel Holmes couldn't be here. Matter of fact, he's in Oakland Park right now. It's on the news. But anything new that I know you were going to put together a meeting of the entities and include a representative from the Fort Lauderdale Police Department, because this is real important to me to make sure our children, you know, I have nothing against DJJ, but I understand that when they're using the public's money, it is their policy to put the child in the computer because the child is using DJJ services, even though the child's done no wrong. The parents just want to make sure they stay out of trouble. But there's something about computer use that offends me. When somebody looks in the computer and sees a black male, all of a sudden that's a target. I speak plainly. I'm well aware of what goes on, and I've lived long enough to see and experience things when you're in a computer. Your pertinence are in a computer. So, Ms. Obell, is the Deerfield project working out so far?
Yes, we did. We have not received any referrals over the holiday break, so I would like to think that that's a good sign, unless juvenile arrest was made, and we were not notified. But nonetheless, we're back on the new year, so we're happy to finalize our rescheduling meeting. Kind of puts us away from the break, and we'll see how things will, kind of flow when they get back. So the first week is gone, so I'll be reaching out to all those departments that have an interest in improving our children and family system for a better way of serving for our county residents. So
now, do you have the capacity to reach beyond Deerfield and go maybe into Pompano?
Yes.
Okay.
We do have the capacity. Just a matter of what's the expectation of people actually following through when they sign up.
All right.
My biggest concern is not whether we have the capacity. Oftentimes, my biggest concern is the referral going to come when folks sign up. Because one thing when the leaders ask them to do something, but those we all know those who patrol the streets have to make that conscious decision to do the right thing, like Spike Lee would say.
Yeah.
So that's always my biggest concern, Madam Chair.
Any questions of Mr. Obel regarding I call it the Deerfield project. I'm proud of that because I finished growing up in Deerfield after coming here from Philadelphia. So that's my city.
It is. I will say this though, Madam Chair. We are doing it in February in the city of Pompano. I will be.
You're breaking up. What, you're doing something in Pompano in February?
Yeah, we're doing a gun violence forum.
Okay.
In Pompano. Last year, myself and Chief Public Defender Mr. Weeks served on that panel. This year, there's been a request. Panel. So I can email you about that, but it's our way of trying to launch into Pompano with this work we're doing in Deerfield.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
So,
and don't forget,
we'll be doing the same thing in Fort Lauderdale as well.
Excellent.
You read my mind. Fort Lauderdale, because I know Madam President for the NAACP has made it very clear. I want to make sure I fulfill that obligation as well. Given we're literally right around the corner, and hopefully with the new chief, what I've been told is that they will be open to this as well.
Excellent.
So,
any questions of Mr. Obel? All right, thank you for joining us. You were barely late, but we're glad you're here.
I was at the doctor's office. My apologies.
No, I'm messing with you. Madam Secretary indicated that you would be, but you like that barely, that minimalist. A loss is a loss. All right, Colonel Holmes is going to email us the number of people who are juveniles who are being detained in the Broward County Jail. I'm going to allow him to do that. Assistant Chief London, how many of our juveniles do you have in your jail? Colonel Holmes, he's going to be, I can't wait to tell him it was 3 out of BSO. Lord help us. Oh, that's going to be a good meeting next month. All right. How many children are in our, Mr. Bush was kind enough to email me a report, and hopefully you all got it. It went out today though. Look, I will tell y'all something. The closer we get to our meetings, I don't necessarily like an hour before the meeting. I'm not on my emails because normally I'm coming out of another meeting. I do a lot of meetings, especially on Zoom. So a lot of times when you send me emails, I don't get them before the meeting, even though you sent it before the meeting. But the day of, or either if you could try to get us the information 2-3 days out, that is helpful because it helps me to get things to Madam Secretary for her to forward it on to you. But it makes it difficult for us to discuss it on the day of the meeting because I like to see things. Some people can hear it and learn it. Some people can see it and learn it. Some people have to see and hear it. I'm that see and hear it person. So I like to have it in front of me so I can ask what I feel are pretty good questions. So, Mr. Bush, how many of my children you got in detention?
All right, good afternoon, Madam Chair and board members.
Good afternoon.
Right now we have, as of yesterday, we have 70 youth in detention. That's 45 Black males, 7 Black females, 11 white males, and 2 white females. And out of the 70, 5 of those are Black males from out of the county.
Okay. Are they paying rent? No, I'm just...
Actually, they do like a detention cost share kind of thing. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. So of the 45 Black males, 5 of them are from somewhere else.
No, ma'am. Those are 45 that are actually from Broward. I separated the 5 out of the 70.
Okay.
So actually, there's like 65 total from Broward in our detention.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Thank you for that clarification.
And just to make you aware, Madam Chair, I do try to send it closer to our meeting,
Yeah.
because I want to give you the most accurate number. I don't want to send it 4 or 5 days out, because then kids come in and go out. So,
and you know what, that's a good point you've made. So I'll just have to try to make a point. But I'm on a Zoom, and the Zoom that I'm on before this meeting is from people who are on the West Coast. So it's their morning. It's a morning meeting for them, and it's an afternoon meeting for me. And then I have to rush and get here. I got two. I got my iPad and my iPhone set up so I could just ease in to from one meeting to the next. So I understand that. So I'm not fussing with you on that, because the more recency is the best indication of what we've got. Are they being schooled, educated? I mean, no busy
Yes, ma'am.
work. This is okay. Excellent. All right. Did they get rid of that bleach smell? No, I'm teasing. I'm coming back. Madam Secretary, I think, and Mr. Weeks, I think it's time for us to do another spot visit at the Jack. Let's see what's going on. But Mr. Weeks, I know it was in the budget. I mean, it was passed out. The legislation was passed. Are we in the budget?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just going to inquire of Mr. Bush, Chief Bush, whether we have any reports from our superintendent about any construction that may be occurring at the detention center. And just so for the record, the last time I visited, they didn't have its bleach smell. It was very nice. It didn't have a profound smell inside the detention center.
All right.
Well, I did have someone call me and reference it, but I have not heard anything in reference to them having any construction or renovations going on. I know in the past, like maybe 6, 8, 10 months, they have renovated some of the bathrooms in there as well. So, but as of recently, I haven't heard anything.
My last visit, I think all of the bathrooms had been renovated, including the female mods. They were relatively clean. There were new tile, new shower areas. There was no mold, absolutely no mold. It was the grout.
What about that wall that had the hole that they had the wooden board covering it?
I don't remember. I can't recall whether I saw that again. But one thing I look for is the grout, and to see if it has any discoloration. And it was apparently clean. But the concern that I'm having, and for the board, we'll be visiting Tallahassee next week, and I'm hoping to have some conversations with DJJ about where we're at with the detention center, and then I'll report back to the board based on those conversations. I'm anticipating that we should be very, very ready to move forward with the plan. But what I'm also understanding is that there are 3 detention centers in the mix: Hillsborough, Broward County, and West Palm. And one of my concerns was during the consolidation conversation that this whole thing about building detention centers would pause until they solidified that issue. Because if you're going to consolidate circuits, it was likely that you wouldn't build additional detention centers if you're consolidating circuits. So now that that is passed or has been resolved, I'm hoping that the conversation about the need for detention centers, particularly in Broward, and who's going to be the priority, first, second, third, are they going to do them all at the same time? Are they going to use different floor plans for each facility, or are they going to have a general floor plan that they just repeat and replicate from facility to facility? When are we going to have some community input? Those types of conversations I'm going to try to get some answers to, and then I'll report back to the board.
There's one footnote I'd like to add. You said now that the circuit consolidation has been resolved. It has not really been resolved. The Supreme Court, in its report December 1st, recommended and said there was no need for the consolidation of the circuits. In other words, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It ain't squeaking. You don't need no WD-40. Just let it keep moving along. However, the legislature does not have to follow the recommendation. Remember, the guidelines are recommendations. So I'm holding my breath until March to see what happens. There's some strange bills that have already been filed. I won't go into them as related to, because I haven't seen any strange bills related to juveniles yet, but I am monitoring the newspapers. I go on the Senate website, the House website, to see what's being filed that affects juveniles. But no voting in malls. Just strange stuff coming, being filed in Tallahassee. So
Getting rid of mail-in voting and ballots. I know, Judge,
yeah,
there's a lot of stuff out there.
yeah.
Madam Chair, don't forget about the child labor bills that are
Yeah.
going to turn back on us. Those will affect our children, because if you're working half the night and you're sleeping in school the next day because you're too tired, that there are rules against that as well, and that could lead to some other issues.
I hear you. Yes, we'll just keep our eyes open and our prayers up.
Just so the board is aware, Judge, Madam Chair is 100% right about the consolidation is never over until it's really over. And there was an interesting tweet the first day of session about some conversation that was being had in a committee. I would encourage all of you to go to Twitter and look at those tweets that are coming out talking about whether there is any authority for 67 counties in the state of Florida. So it may be a different way to accomplish the same goal. There was some conversation that was tweeted out from committees about the need for 67 counties, reduction of cities, the reduction of the number of sheriffs, clerks, and things of that sort. And because that conversation is having right on the heels of consolidation, Madam Chair, you're 100% on point. We got to watch it the entire session.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any questions regarding Mr. Bush's report? Oh, I forgot to ask, because it is now, I heard a report that there's an uptick in COVID, the flu, and RSV. But RSV, you mainly look to babies and old folks like myself that contracted. But pneumonia is also on the uprise. So, Mr. Bush, anybody, any illnesses that we need to be aware of in the JAG?
Madam Chair, there was nothing that was reported where, any COVID cases or any serious respiratory issues, other than those kids who come in with asthma. Of course, we have to send those kids out to get verified and checked. But other than that, there's nothing that was reported.
Okay. Any questions of Mr. Bush? All right, seeing no hands. Thank you, Mr. Bush. I appreciate you. All right, and then Mr. Weeks, any further legislative updates? I know you'll be in Tallahassee next week.
Judge, you pointed out that there's a number of bills. There's really nothing yet that is incredibly concerning for juveniles, but as you know, things move very quickly, and we're tracking all the bills. We're looking at things that may impact us, and as you know, the session develops and there becomes like a theme for the session. I think they're developing their theme, and
it's called suppression.
We'll try to monitor how it impacts juvenile. As of yet, the theme has not been a juvenile-driven agenda, at least from what I'm seeing, from what Ms. Phillips is saying, and what from Madam President of the NAACP. I don't think we've seen juvenile-driven agenda items as of yet. However, that could change on a dime. It's just a matter of getting bill sponsors and some activity on the floor and moving it forward. So we're monitoring. I'll keep us all posted. We'll get a much better feel after visiting, and I'll be able to in a better position to report on what to anticipate from Tallahassee.
All right. And I do have a question. Mr. Bush, or Chief Bush, mental health issues are on the rise. And, everything's attributed to lack of funding. We don't have the funds for mental health. How is it going on the juvenile side? Are they getting services that they need? I was a big proponent and tried to push for a juvenile mental health court, but I kind of slowed down to see if there's rising. Because I'm like a hurricane. I go one way, but I go through the path of least resistance. I got resisted on one side. I know how to change course. So tell me about the juveniles and mental health.
Yeah, of course, I mean, mental health has always been a concern. So, we do have several providers who are providing services for the kid. Actually, I did receive a call from BBHC in reference to what services DJJ still may need in reference to that. And that was one of the ones that I mentioned, to them. So psychological, psychiatric, those type of things. So hopefully they will put something out there where they will possibly get some services or look for a provider who can provide those services for our kids. So,
are there any treatments available in the Jack? You got almost a village. This is the population in some of the smaller village cities in some states. So, are services provided as needed for mental health treatment?
Yes, those kids are assessed. Actually, they are assessed from the Jack. Once they have been assessed and determined that they need mental health services, all of that information is relayed over to detention, and they have another assessment by a therapist, licensed therapist, and based on that outcome, they are provided individual services.
Excellent. And any questions of Mr. Bush based upon my mental health?
Madam Chair.
Yes, you may.
I wanted to be clear. So I know if a child present with a diagnosed mental health issue, I'm sure they could, with a prescription, or at least they could get the medication. Are you saying with that diagnosis, they can both get their meds and they can also be given offered mental health services while
Yes.
they're in your facility?
Yes, Madam Secretary, yes.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
Yes, Madam Chair, if I may.
You may.
With respect to what we're seeing in other facilities in this community, particularly with suicidal ideation and actual acting on suicidal attempts, is the detention center trying to be a little bit more proactive? The holidays are tough, kids being in confined spaces. I know that you have signage about suicide issues, but are you doing any group sessions or having candid conversations about suicide ideation so we can get ahead of it? Because we would be painful to see a reoccurrence of that type of stuff happening in the detention center when we're seeing it happen in other facilities, i.e. the Broward County Jail. So
you read my mind, Mr. Weeks. I didn't want to bring up that.
I'm saying it, Judge. I'm saying it because we have way too many mentally ill folks dying in the jail, and children are also very vulnerable in this community. And we've had children that have been transferred of jail in the past that have killed themselves. So I just want to make sure that our detention center is being proactive on that issue, having conversations on that issue, and making sure those children that are having difficulties have somewhere that they can go express their difficulties rather than trying to act on the difficulties.
Well, they do like I mentioned before, they do have the therapist available really 7 days a week. Not only that, every single detention officer and every single probation officer goes through suicide prevention training to be able to recognize kids who are maybe going into crisis or in those type of situations. So if we do see that, we can make the proper referrals at that time to get the kid the proper treatment and services. So,
Madam Chair.
Yes, you may.
May I ask, Ms. Marcella, your office, and I don't know if it's changed or if it's the same, even when when the folk who did your civil citation and or diversion, the questionnaire spoke to suicidal thoughts and that sort of thing. And when a provider or any of your folk said, yes, this kid said, I've thought about it, I haven't tried it, but I've thought about it, we would call your office, and then you all would make sure that they were elevated and when their services, DJJ would know. It would go to a specific program to deal with those issues rather than perhaps the wait or lag time. Is that still the practice of your office?
Okay, so forgive me, you're gonna have to, you're talking about it for diversion purposes?
I mean, yeah, for the purposes of diversion, you all had a policy that if let's say it wasn't caught at, or they didn't go to the jack, or wasn't caught for whatever
right.
reason, and then there was a questionnaire that the organizations asked, and the kid sitting before me said, "I've thought about suicide."
Mhm.
You would then call your office, and then you would then make that a priority to make sure they went to the right kind of provider, and that whoever was involved knew that this kid was at risk. Is that still
Yeah.
a policy for your office?
Those assessments are always being made. So yes, I would say that. I mean, I don't get those calls personally because those assessments are made like at the jack or whatever. And everybody has an obligation that if a child is speaking about that it has to be, it has to be addressed immediately, whether it's a Baker Act or the proper provider, like you're suggesting, that would handle that kind of mental health issue. Absolutely.
What about civil citation, Ms. Martello? Same thing?
Well, for civil citation, they go to Ms. Rodriguez. They don't come to us first.
No, I'm saying it wasn't. It was just a matter of you all knowing, since at the time you weren't handling civil citation, but now that you are, and I know that you're equally concerned if someone that doesn't get caught for whatever reason, you find out later, it would take would be a call to your office to say
to elevate their services to address it. Absolutely.
And put them in the right program and get them the right services.
Always,
Okay.
yeah, always the goal. Yep.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? We're going to certainly keep our focus on what we're doing, but also include mental health, since that is so prevalent. I don't want what's happening in the adult jail to happen in the detention center, so we'll monitor that. At this time, I was speaking to Mr. Roosevelt Walters prior to the beginning of the meeting, and he's got a very important announcement to make. So, Mr. Walters, if you would make that announcement that we talked about earlier.
Thank you, Madam Chair and board members. I was very quiet today. I didn't want to be disruptive. I wanted to hear the chair talk about that Dallas Dolphin game, so I didn't want to miss anything. Let me just say that there's some important things going on in the city of Fort Lauderdale / Broward County. And one of the things is, if you remember, in last April, we had the flood. I think it was April the 18th or April the 17th, when we had all that water, 21 inches or so, came down that one night. And then we had that. Well, during that time, City Hall was flooded out, and we no longer use City Hall for any purposes. It is unsafe, and the city businesses is scattered all around the city, and we are in the process of determining what a new City Hall should be and should do. I've stressed over and over to the committee and to the commission, I'm not looking for a place that looks good. I'm looking for a place that does good. And on this Saturday at 9 a.m. in the morning at the new YMCA, there'll be a presentation, and it's called Reimagining City Hall. And what is happening is the presentation will take you through certain things, and we are having these presentations in all 4 of the districts, plus a wrap-up that would be trying to bring everything together. And we District 3, which is where I live, not where Marcia lives. She out there among the other folks. But we are asking that everybody that can come to this meeting and have your input heard. I'm not saying it's going to be agreed to, but certainly want you to state your opinion. And mainly Saturday is going to be about space. That is, whether or not in City Hall should be space for community meetings. Will there be space for meeting with your district person, commissioners, and that kind of stuff? And we want to be able to take that and go back on the first Monday of next month, and then we'll talk about it. So the committee will be there, but we are there to listen. We are not there to try to encourage you to say one thing or the other. You'll probably see me sit in a meeting and not say anything. That's what I did the last one. I did not talk because I didn't want to sway anybody one way or the other. But this whole thing is about getting input, and you know how we are. We allow all the meetings to take place, and the building is half built, and then we find things wrong with the ground floor. Well, we don't want that to happen. We want your input now so that it can be included to the best of our ability. And we are talking about millions, hundreds of millions of dollars between what we are doing in the community, police stations, parks and recs, streets and highways, sewer, and all that. The total budget for this is right now is $4.9 billion. And my job is to get the things that we need in this community so that everything will go on Las Olas on the beach. And we have to do this, and I will tell you that the people that I'm working with is a bunch of people who are dedicated to seeing that happen. And I just want them to be impressed when they leave on Saturday morning that we came out as a community to tell the committee and City Hall what we would like to see. Questions?
Any questions of Mr. Walters?
Is there a flyer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know whether I did a good job of explaining or nobody cares. I don't know.
Madam Chair,
well, you explained that to me earlier. I didn't have a lot of questions because I took notes about.
Is there a flyer for notification, Madam Chair, that's being sent out?
Yeah, Mr. Walters, is there a flyer for Saturday?
Yes. There's a flyer that already went out. I got one yesterday, and they was going out with water bills and things like that everybody seemed to get, and they went out through the churches, so that the people who don't have water bill but go to church would also be notified. It is also on the city's website, and it's out that way. And there's a short survey on the website also that you can participate in to talk about what you want to see City Hall look like and act like.
I'll go on to the website and get the flyer. I was at Newmont Olive on Sunday, and there was nothing being given out at the second service, so maybe And I know a lot of people don't go on the website, so I'll get the flyer and send it out from our space as well.
I appreciate
And,
that.
and
Thank
Madam Secretary, that is one of the things I push. I said, websites and tweeters and all that stuff is good for the young people, but for us old folks, most of us don't even have computers, and those of us who have the phones don't know how to use them, and so that's why I insist on flyers also go out, because a lot of time when we got something in our hand, or we, Madam Chair, as you said, you like to see and hear. I try to make that be part of this whole effort to reimagine City Hall. This is expensive, and I want to make sure that the things that we need to correct. And for those who don't know, this is the infrastructure. This is the total infrastructure of the city of Fort Lauderdale. When all those water sewer pipes was breaking and all that stuff, your water was turning yellow and all that stuff. This is what this whole thing is about. And when we started, it was supposed to be for 18 months. That was in 2018. So it's been a little over 18 months now we've been working on this, and we was told that we will be here until it is done. And I just want to do what y'all should expect for me to be doing while I sit on these boards.
Madam Chair, if I may ask,
if
there are any other follow-up meetings that will be happening following the Saturday meeting this week?
Yes. If you can't make the meeting, I know you got you can go on the website there, Mr. Public Defender, and all the meetings will be there, including the wrap-up. But there's the next meeting after Saturday is February, I think, 17th, and the one after that is the March date was changed. It bumped into something else, and but there on the website that is there. And if that doesn't work for you, if you send me the email, I think I know how this. I get my grandson to send it to you on your smartphone, because I can't. But there is meeting for the other 3 districts plus a wrap-up. So there's 4 more meetings. But here is the catch, and I couldn't get this. Every meeting is about a different portion of what this whole thing is going to be. That's why you hear me say on this Saturday we are talking about space. The next Saturday, I believe we are talking budget. And then it goes on, and then we have a wrap-up that will put all 4 meetings together. Attend as many of those as possible, because the same way we send our commissioner to City Hall to fight for us when we won't show up, it's the same way that this is. I'm one person. I will carry the fight to the best of.
Thank you so much, Mr. Walters. Any further announcements? And we'll make sure, Madam Secretary but President of the NAACP, we'll make sure that we get that. As I mentioned, January is a busy month for we women who wear the red and white. And so that is actually our Founders Day on Saturday. So I've got some activities that I've got to attend to, but if time permits and gas is in the tank, I'll see if I can swing by.
Madam Chair.
I appreciate that, but if you can't get by, just go on the web to FortLauderdale.gov, I think it is, and it's there. It's under infrastructure task force.
Okay.
Everything that we've done, and you can go in there and see all the meetings.
I do have a question, Mr. Walters. Do you have to be a citizen of the city of Fort Lauderdale in order to participate?
Not come, no.
Okay.
No. You can be a city, your input is wanted if you are a resident or have a business in the city of Fort Lauderdale. But it doesn't preclude you from coming if you have neither.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. Thank you. All right, call Judge Robolo. Anything for good and order with the 17th Judicial Circuit in the Juvenile Division? Y'all holding it down?
We are, Judge. Everything's been, I was back January 2nd. Everything has been pretty good so far.
Excellent.
Judge, I'm at, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Me to tell you, Judge Williams is having one of his respite meetings tomorrow. Ms. Brown, is that accurate? Yes.
Yes, she mentioned that, yes.
I can email you the report. He sends out a report. I don't know if you're CC'd on it or not, Madam Chair. If you're not.
No, I don't get it. I'd love to see it.
You'll get it because I'll send it to you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I will disseminate it to board members. Whatever I receive, I'll give unto you. So.
Thank you, Judge.
I feel like the Apostle Paul, that which I received, I give also unto you. Don't worry, I'm not serving communion today. All right. Any other announcements for the good of the order? Don't forget, King Day is Monday, January 15th. In various cities, I'll be in the city of Deerfield Beach. I'm their keynote speaker and their what's the person that rides on the float?
You're the marshal, Judge.
Yeah, that's it. I'm the marshal. Yeah, the grand marshal. So I'm going to Deerfield. I'll be there for the King Day celebration there.
Madam Chair, I have an announcement. I did send it on email. I did run into one of the City of Fort Lauderdale police officers who has been working with Handy, and they are working to distribute information regarding a program. I'm not sure if it's new, but it's called the Acosta program. It's a youth economic stability program. I sent out all the details, and it talks about paid job placement for a number of children there. Those of you who may not know, Handy does an amazing job with many of the programs that they have. And if I'm asking if you'll review your email, and if you know children that qualify, all the criteria is there. It sounds like an excellent opportunity. The enrollment is going to be for 50 clients there, but everything that they've offered is certainly helpful. And I'm glad to see that's something that City of Fort Lauderdale is participating in with, and certainly working with a number of the children that are working there. So please check your email. Thank you.
And Madam Secretary, I thank Assistant Chief Victor London. He has sent me the information for Reimagining City Hall. I'll forward it to you as soon as this meeting ends. Thank you, sir. All right.
Well, you became the chief, and now you're something else over there. You're just carrying on. Okay. All right.
I also, Judge, Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, you may.
Just want to acknowledge the good work of Fort Lauderdale. The Chief of Police was sworn in very recently, last month. It was a historic event, having a number of stakeholders being involved in that ceremony. And I think that's a testament of Fort Lauderdale recognizing that, in order for law enforcement to move in a new direction, the city to move in a new direction, you have to have all the folks at the table, access, communication. We don't have to agree on everything, but we need to talk. We need to be able to express ideas openly, candidly, and fairly. So that is a important note because we need to build these bridges with law enforcement. I am on the other side, but even though I'm on the other side, I'm in the criminal justice, so I'm on the side of fairness and equality, and I know that's the same side that law enforcement on as well. So I just want to acknowledge that they have an incredible chief over there. They're moving in the right direction. I would hope that other leaders in law enforcement take similar approaches. Hint, hint. Because we can't have any progress if everyone stays in their silo and tries to do things all by themselves, because it can't be done all by yourself. You need partners to get this done.
Anybody else?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just want to thank all of you, and I miss saying Merry Christmas, so belated Merry Christmas. I couldn't reach you to say Happy New Year's, so happy the rest of this year, and happy my birthday.
Today is your birthday?
81.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy
Congratulations.
birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mr. Walters. Happy birthday to you and many more.
Thank you.
He is going to need mental health treatment from my singing, so y'all get him some help. Okay. If all hearts and minds are clear, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay. Ella, you were hurting, your ears hurt? Ella was pointing to her ears. I'm sorry, Ella.
Really? No, I'm good.
Look, I'm not in the choir anymore, so I sing at every available opportunity. Okay. All right, then I'll see you all on Valentine's Day. I think Mr. Weeks is going to have Uber deliver Valentine's gifts for all of us. So thank you, Mr. Weeks. Okay.
Yellow gold is my preference, Mr.
Is there a motion to adjourn? Did I hear it?
Yes, you did.
Yes.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Any objection? I'm letting you go 14 minutes early. Anybody object to leaving early?
You run a very efficient meeting, Judge, and I appreciate
well,
that.
thank you. Thank you so much.
For being a very, very strong chair for this.
I think I hear my retirement coming upon me.
No, Judge, you run a very, very efficient meeting.
Look,
we appreciate
I retired 5 years ago. I haven't really retired yet. So now I am actually retirement age. It is time for mama to go off into the sunset. So we'll talk about that. Let y'all young bloods take over. See y'all.